Welcome! Thank you for joining us for today's lesson. This is part of a 13-lesson series brought to you by the Food Trust Nutrition Educators. The Food Trust works to ensure that everyone has access to affordable, nutritious food and the information to make healthy choices. In this series, we'll be covering topics such as how to shop at a farmer's market, stretching your food dollars, storing fruits and vegetables, and more. Join us every other week as we share nutrition information from my plate, as well as tips and tricks to eating more healthy food at every meal. Each bi-weekly lesson will be followed by a recipe featuring a seasonal ingredient you can find at your local farmer's market or grocery store. Meet our nutrition educators, who you'll get to know through our lessons or recipe demonstrations. We're excited to have you with us. Thanks again for joining us. Please fill out our anonymous survey at the end of this video so that we can find out more about who we're reaching and how to serve our audience best. We hope you come back for our next lesson. See you then!
Welcome to another Food Trust recipe demonstration. My name is Wayne Snap, the head nutrition educator with the Food Trust, and today's recipe is Somali Summer Salad. It's a great salad to make around this time of year because we have peak season for fresh fruits and vegetables. The recipe calls for green peppers, apples, tomatoes, cucumbers, and of course the salad dressing that you're going to make. There's a couple of things that you always want to consider when making a recipe. One, the most important part is who you're making the recipe for. Two, you want to look at the ingredients that you need for the recipe. Measure them. This recipe actually is designed for 8 servings or 8 people. What we're going to do, we're going to reduce that down to 4 people, 4 servings. And what that means is that the recipe calls for 2 green peppers. And since we're going to reduce it down to 4, we will use 1 green pepper. Recipe calls for 2 apples. So what we're going to do to reduce it and bring it down to 4, we're going to use 1 apple. And the recipe, of course, calls for 2 cucumbers, and since we're breaking it in half, we're just going to use 1 cucumber. And then, of course, the recipe calls for 2 tomatoes, so what we're going to do is just use 1 tomato. Let's get started. The first thing you want to start is with the salad dressing. The salad dressing calls for 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. And the reason why you want to start with the salad dressing, you want to make the salad dressing because you want it to sit for a while you're chopping up the fruits and vegetables. And the recipe calls for 3 teaspoons of oil, olive oil in this case. And you can put any type of seasoning that you want in there, salt, pepper, and we're going to use just a pinch of salt and just a pinch of black pepper. And the reason again why you want to do this here, I always like stirring this up and let it sit for a while. Because it sit like this here, by the time we finish chopping up the vegetables and the fruit and mix it up, this salad dressing will be perfect because it will have sat with each other. The salt and the pepper become actually a part of the taste and it's not separated. The next thing you want to do, of course, you always want to start off in the very beginning by cleaning your fruits and vegetables. Before you do any cooking, you always want to clean your utensils, fruits, and vegetables. Here, we're going to keep the skin on this cucumber because the cucumber skin, it has healthy nutrients and vitamins in it. And the cucumber skin have healthy vitamins and nutrients in it. And what you want to do is just cut them, because you want to dice the cucumbers, the tomatoes, apples, you want to dice them. So what we do, you can dice any way you want, the size that you like. And what I normally do is chop it in 3 different places, then come back here, chop it across, and that's my dice. I do the same dice formula or way with the apples and the tomatoes. That way I'll try to get at least the same size of the fruits and vegetables in this case, as opposed to having one fruit or vegetable bigger than the other. Dice that up. Move that to the side, and again, we're going to use this whole cucumber. So we're reducing the recipe from an 8 serving to a 4. Always have a sharp knife. A sharp knife is the best knife to work with, because a Dell knife, what a Dell knife does, it forces us to apply more pressure. And say, for example, you'll see that demonstrated clearly with the tomato. If the tomato is a soft tomato or not a firm tomato, a Dell knife will really it'll cut through the tomato. But what it will actually do is, it don't give you that smooth, crisp cut that you like. And so you always want to have a sharp knife whenever you're cooking anything. And there's many ways, again, to dice up fruits and vegetables. Some people dice them up by just dicing them like that, and that's fine. You always remember, when you're making a recipe, you cooking something, it always has to be something that fits you. Now once you finish dicing up the cucumbers, just put them into the bowl. Let's chop that up. The next thing we're going to chop up, because you're using this cutting board for fruits and vegetables, you can use the same cutting board. Always remember, if we was using something other than fruits and vegetables, so like if we was going to chop up some chicken or beef, we would want to change the cutting board, because fruits and vegetables are good on the same cutting board, but you wouldn't want to put raw meat on the same cutting board if you just cut fruits or vegetables. Why? Because it could create what we call cross-contamination. I mean, the juice from the meat combined with the fruits and vegetables, they really don't go together. And that's what will create cross-contamination. So you chop up your apples in the same way that you did with your cucumbers. Dice them up. There's always a method to it. Again, you want to become comfortable with your own method as you doing any recipe. Just want to dice these apples up to be close to the same size as the cucumbers. Okay. That look good there. And again, remember, you always want to wash your fruits and vegetables before you start cutting. That's what we did here. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to cut up is the tomato. And one of the things I looked at when I looked for tomato, you always want to look at, you want a firm tomato. You don't want a tomato like it's kind of soft and mushy, because while you will be able to cut it, it just makes it that much more difficult to use that in your ingredients. And you see how good that's a sharp cut, because the tomato is tight. Okay, let's cut that. Do the same thing with the tomato. You want to cut it so you can dice it. Good. Now, a sharp knife will allow you to dice it like that. A Dell knife wouldn't. What a Dell knife would do, you have to apply more pressure. And as you see there, even with this sharp knife, you end up mashing the tomato as opposed to cutting it. And that's why you always want to have a sharp knife. Take those tomatoes, mix them up in there with the apple. Take this last piece. Good. Always make sure that it's chopped all the way through, because you don't want them to be stuck pieces. And then the next thing you want is the green pepper. Green pepper is the same way. The reason I cut the green pepper like this here, what you want to do, you want to get rid of that, since you're not going to use that, and you don't want them seeds to become a part of your salad or whatever you're making. So you always cut around the seed, get rid of the seeds at first, and then just cut the green pepper like so. Dice it. Then push that to the side. Now remember, while we're doing this, the season in the salad dressing, because it's sitting during this period, it becomes much more potent and stronger because it's not like divided season. You don't taste the salt separate from the pepper. By letting the salad dressing sit like that, the salt and pepper and the olive oil and the lemon, eventually it's going to become one taste. And what I like to do when I'm letting salad dressing sit like that, occasionally what I like to do, I like to stir it up again to keep it moving. To keep stirring up, because it's sitting in there for a while and the taste is, blending. But every time we stir it up, we help that blending process. Okay. Now we're done with the green peppers. Push them in there. Good. And also you want to keep in mind, and it's just basic, you want to keep in mind because the size of the green pepper may also be of something that you want to consider. Because if the recipe called for a green pepper or 2 green peppers, you just want to take a look at the size of the green pepper. In other words, if you have a great big green pepper, 2 green peppers, you may not want to use all of that green pepper. Again, that's up to you as you're making your recipe. If that's enough green peppers for you, then that's good. And always remember that when you're making a recipe, at the end of the day, it's for you to eat. And if you don't like what you made, or if your children don't like what you made, then the chances of you eating it is going to be very little. Okay, now once we mix that again, the salad dressing, pull the vegetables into the bowl. Good. Mix that up. Let that salad dressing sit, because you want to give yourself a good mixture here. To let that salad dressing get in every part of the fruits and vegetables that you have here. And that's why you make the salad dressing separate and make it by itself, as opposed to, you could do it the other way and pull the salad dressing on top of this if you like. But I just like having it all in a bowl and then just putting the fruits and the vegetables in a bowl and then just stir it up. And this is what is called, again, a Somali Summer Salad. It's a great salad to go along with a meal, say if you're baking fish, baking chicken. It's a great meal with chicken, fish, rice, a side dish for dinner. And it's very healthy, of course. It's healthy because the tomatoes in itself has a lot of vitamin C's. The apple is good place for fiber. Of course, fiber is good for us. And all of this, of course, all the fruits and vegetables that we're using here, all of them are, of course, low sodium, no salt, no calories. All of it's good for you. And that is what it will look like at the end. Now, before putting it on a plate, we're going to stir it up just a little bit more. Make sure all that salad dressing got evening around. Give you a chance to see what it looks like. And of course, it's always the taste. With any recipe, it's the taste that determines the value of that recipe. And that's good. Thank you for watching another Food Trust recipe demonstration.